China's economic rise over the past few decades has been nothing short of remarkable. However, behind this facade of prosperity lies a troubling reality. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has strategically manipulated businesses and corporations, both within its borders and abroad, to consolidate power and reap disproportionate benefits. This extensive and long-standing practice has allowed China to expand its sphere of influence, while coercing developing countries into dependence on Chinese infrastructure funding and exploiting their valuable resources. Hello and welcome to N.D.P News, your top source for the latest global news. For those who are new to the channel, we invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay informed of our upcoming content. Thank you for tuning in. China has a history of forcing foreign businesses and corporations into partnerships with Chinese entities, often under the pretext of accessing the vast Chinese market. However, the reality is that these partnerships often result in the transfer of technology, intellectual property, and operational know-how to the Chinese counterparts. By doing so, the CCP ensures that its own companies gain a competitive edge and can dominate domestic industries. For example, foreign automakers are compelled to establish joint ventures with Chinese firms, which eventually leads to technology transfer and the growth of homegrown Chinese brands at the expense of foreign competitors. China's drive for global influence has been facilitated by its use of state-owned and state-supported enterprises to extend its economic reach. Through massive investments and infrastructure projects in developing countries, China aims to secure influence and control over strategic locations. One notorious example is the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, where China provides loans and investments to countries for infrastructure development. While this may initially seem beneficial, these projects often come with strings attached, such as the requirement to use Chinese companies, labor, and resources, further strengthening China's economic dominance. China's economic dominance goes hand in hand with its access to valuable resources, often acquired through coercion and exploitative agreements. By offering infrastructure funding and loans to resource-rich developing countries, China gains access to their natural resources, which it then exports back to its own markets or uses for domestic industrial growth. These arrangements create a dangerous cycle of dependency as countries become increasingly reliant on Chinese infrastructure projects, leaving them vulnerable to China's demands and compromising their own economic sovereignty. China's exploitation of developing countries extends beyond infrastructure projects. It also employs a tactic known as debt diplomacy. By extending substantial loans to financially struggling nations, China puts them in a state of indebtedness that can be exploited for political leverage. When countries are unable to repay these loans, China gains influence over their economic and political decision-making, often leading to lopsided agreements that primarily favor Chinese interests. Sri Lanka's Hambantota port serves as a stark example, where the country was forced to hand over control of the port to a Chinese state-owned company after failing to repay its debt. China's exploitation extends beyond physical resources. It also seeks dominance in key sectors, such as telecommunications, technology, and digital infrastructure. By strategically positioning Chinese companies and technologies, China gains control over critical communication networks and information systems in various countries. For instance, the dominance of Huawei in 5G technology raises concerns about potential surveillance and interference by the Chinese government, compromising national security and undermining the privacy of individuals and businesses. What are your thoughts on today's topic thus far? Leave a comment and share your opinion. Now let's dive back into it. G7 Summit, addressing Beijing's economic coercion. In response to China's assertive utilization of economic power, President Joe Biden and the leaders of advanced democracies have been actively engaged in formulating a collective strategy aimed at thwarting what they perceive as Beijing's endeavors to intimidate businesses and nations for political advantage during the Group of Seven Summit held recently. This collaborative effort has involved meticulous deliberations on approaches to safeguard against against what is described as coercive tactics employed by China to exert political leverage. The leaders convening in Hiroshima have dedicated unprecedented attention to this issue, which they view as a disconcerting consequence of Beijing's escalating economic dominance. President Biden and his counterparts plan to delineate a shared set of measures to address the concerns faced by each of their countries, including those arising from economic coercion. Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, emphasized the intention to outline a common set of tools to address concerns that each of our countries face, including from economic coercion. In his address to reporters, a comprehensive 41-page summit communique extended an olive branch to China, while also pledging a commitment to foster resilience to economic coercion. Despite its succinctness, the statement indicated a certain threshold of unity in countering China's economic influence. The communique also unveiled the establishment of a new initiative designed to increase our collective assessment, preparedness, deterrence, and response to economic coercion. Notably, Rahm Emanuel, the U.S. ambassador to Japan, highlighted the significance of this development by stating, "There was never a communique before that ever mentioned coercion." He further explained that, considering China's frequent recourse to this instrument and strategy, it is inadequate to rely on an ad hoc approach. A coordinated and meticulously devised strategy, equipped with an array of tools and appropriate countermeasures, is indispensable. Responding with strong language, a spokesperson for China's foreign ministry condemned the G7, accusing them of smearing and attacking China and engaging in gross interference in China's internal affairs. This spokesperson asserted that while the G7 purportedly talks about moving toward a peaceful, stable, and prosperous world, their actions hinder international peace, undermine regional stability, and suppress the development of other nations. According to the spokesperson, such actions lack any form of international credibility. Reaching a consensus on matters concerning China within the international community presents a formidable challenge. The G7 countries are geographically dispersed and possess distinct trade and diplomatic relations with Beijing. The visit of French President Emmanuel Macron to China last month, for instance, sparked controversy in the West due to his suggestion in an interview that France should strive for strategic autonomy and resist falling under the influence of either the United States or China. Noah Barkin, a senior advisor at the Rhodium Group research firm, revealed that French officials had privately expressed grievances about pressure from the U.S. to adopt a more confrontational stance towards Beijing in the lead-up to the G7 summit. Analyzing and substantiating cases of what is perceived as the misuse of China's substantial influence as the world's second-largest economy has been an ongoing endeavor among experts. A report published by the Center for Strategic and International Studies in March highlighted an incident involving the Taiwanese government opening an office in Lithuania 2 years ago. This move, in violation of China's One China principle that considers Taiwan part of its territory, led to a fierce backlash. China subsequently rejected permits for Lithuanian food imports, and companies in the Eastern European nation faced difficulties in obtaining approval for Chinese contracts, as stated in the report. Furthermore, last month, China initiated a cybersecurity review of Micron Technology, a prominent U.S. memory chip manufacturer. This action was widely interpreted as retaliation against the Biden administration's implementation of export controls, aimed at depriving Beijing of crucial computer chips that underpin its military and economic expansion. Rahm Emanuel, drawing attention to this trend, remarked, "They've gone from targeting countries to coercing companies." We appreciate your engagement with N.D.P. News. Please share your thoughts in the comment section regarding your perspective on whether China is employing economic power aggressively and engaging in business intimidation. Thank you for choosing N.D.P. News, and we look forward to your continued support. Stay tuned for our upcoming videos.